Hey guys, welcome to my new series titled Which Gear Should I Buy? The reason why I decided to do a series like this is because every week I get a lot of questions from people that watch the show and enjoy my shootouts and demonstrations of all the gear that I use on the show. And a lot of times they have a hard time choosing between product A and product B, whether it's an amp, a pedal, a cab, mics, whatever. A lot of it's amplifiers, which I'm glad because I'm happy to demo the amps that I have here in my studio, or amps that I can get from Motor City Guitar, who graciously let me use gear so I can help you guys out. So if you're having a hard time deciding between a couple pieces of gear, feel free to email me. The email link is below in the description of this video. And just tell me a little bit about yourself. I need some background so I can help you make the best decision for you. Tell me what kind of music you like to play, what your playing style is, and name a couple of your guitar players who have a big influence on your playing. And feel free to tell me what gear you already have so that I can keep that in mind when I'm giving you some advice on which piece of gear you should add to your collection. So today's episode is courtesy of Gaza Deuce, one of my viewers. And basically Gaza is having a hard time deciding between the EVH Stealth 50 watt and the Victory Super Kraken 100 watt. And this is the message that he sent me. It's posted up here on the screen. There might be an English issue here, so I'm going to go ahead and translate this best I can for you guys, so it's not going to read exactly how you're seeing it on the screen. He says, Tone Wars, I'm torn between the Kraken and EVH Stealth 50 watt. Can you please tell me which amp I should go for, and I mostly play metal. Thanks in advance. Okay, so I have the Victory Kraken 100 watt right over here, and I have the EVH Stealth 50 watt right behind me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play them each in a mix for you, and if you keep an eye on the screen, obviously you see the Kraken is up there right now, and so are the current settings that I'm using. And I'm using channel 1 right now in the Kraken, which can be either a clean or a high gain channel, and I'm going to use channel 1 in the high gain setting as opposed to the clean for this mix. And then I'm going to switch over to the EVH Stealth and play the same mix with the blue channel on that, which is kind of their rhythm channel as well. So I'm going to put these up against each other, channel for channel, in mixes and with some isolated riffs, and show you how they sound different or maybe have some similarities. And then we're going to discuss the features and the pricing and maybe some other things about these amplifiers, and hopefully that'll help out Gaza and anybody else who watches this video. So here we go with the mixes now. Okay, so the thing I'm noticing between these two channels on these amplifiers is you're going to get a thicker, beefier low end with the Kraken over the EVH Stealth 50 watt. And you should. The Kraken is 100 watt, the Stealth is only 50. So if the Kraken didn't have more low end than the Stealth, I'd be worried about how the Kraken was built and dialed in and voiced, to be honest with you. So, but he asked for this comparison, so that's what I'm giving you. So the other thing that I noticed is the Stealth definitely has more texture and a grainier top end, and it has more top end. So if you notice the settings of the Kraken on the screen here in the middle, you can see that I have the mids at 9 o'clock and the treble at 3 o'clock. So they're like opposing each other perfectly, pretty much, you know. And dialing in the treble any higher isn't really going to give you that top end that you're looking for in the Kraken. The only thing I would say that is critical about the Kraken is the fact that they don't have a presence knob in it. It really lacks a little bit of that presence that you want so that you can cut through a mix like the EVH Stealth does. But if you like a darker amp, then the Kraken is more for you. I love darker amps just as much as I like the brighter ones. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for from day to day. I mean, the Nitro is not the brightest amp that I have. It's a darker amp, but man, does it sound good. The nice thing about the darker amps is that they can be really thick and beefy sounding. And if they're not sitting in the mix the way you want them to, there's two things you can do to fix that. You can crank the amp up a little higher than you would the brighter amps, and it actually helps, helps it sit in a mix better. It's, Captain Obvious, right? Duh, turn it up and it sits in a mix better. So you can do that, or you can add an EQ pedal to the amp and put it in the loop and just boost some frequencies a little bit, and that can help you as well. So I'll demonstrate that for you now on the Kraken. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Cali EQ, which is like the Mesa Mark EQ. I'm going to put that in the loop, and I'm going to boost one of the frequencies a little bit, probably like 3 decibels, and you're going to hear a pretty good difference on how the amp brightens up a little bit and stands out in a mix better. So I'll show you that now. So I have the Cali EQ selected in the Helix right now, and I have the 6600 hertz boosted by about 3 decibels. And I'm going to show you what the difference is. I'm going to start with it off, and then I'm going to engage it while I'm playing and show you the difference that it makes. Okay, so that obviously brightened the amp up, and you can adjust it to your taste and everything depending on your speakers and the kind of mixes that you're doing, but that definitely does give the amp some hope, and it gives it a little bit of brightness. So now let's go ahead and see how the Kraken compares to the Stealth with the EQ engaged, and maybe it'll keep up with it a little better now regarding the brightness. Alright, that was much better. So, I mean, it's still not as sharp on the top end as the Stealth is, but it definitely had a better standing against it. So that's one thing you can do if you really like that thickness and the feel and the saturated sound that the Kraken gives you, but you're just not real keen on the whole dark thing. Just throw an EQ in the loop. EQs cover a multitude of sins, just like overdrive pedals do. They can really make a big difference in your amplifier. So again, if you really love what your amp does, but there's just that one thing about it, get an EQ pedal, and it really does make a difference. Alright, so now let's go on to channel 2 of the Kraken versus the red channel of the EVH Stealth 50 watt. And I'm going to do this with the EQ block off in the Helix so that I can keep things consistent with what the amps sound like without any additional processing. Okay, so the way I had these channels set up is mainly for leads, so they're a little high on the gain, but I just wanted to show you what they sounded like playing some rhythms on those channels against each other, so you can just hear how they differ and maybe how they're the same. What I've noticed between the two amps overall is not only is there a brightness difference between them, but the way the gain is structured is quite a bit different. The EVH Stealth is quite a bit drier than the Kraken. It's got a different texture on the top end. It's grainy, it's gritty, and it's a little sharp, but in a good way. It's not pointy in a bad way where it hurts your ears. It's just got this really grainy, almost barbed wire texture to it when you compare it to the saturation that is on the Kraken. The Kraken's wetter and more saturated sounding, and there's just a lot of, there's some smoothness up there, but there's some grit mixed in with it as well, and I call it grease. There's a little bit of grease in that top end that gives it that nice smoothness. There is texture up there, but it's not as sharp and grainy as the EVH Stealth. So if you want more of a drier sound, you'd probably want to go with the Stealth because you're going to get drier and brighter over there. But if you like that rich saturation with big, thick, heavy palm mutes, then the Kraken is going to be more for you. But again, it's going to be a little darker. If you like the darker amps, just crank it up a little bit or add an EQ in the block if you want that brightness. Or if you don't need it, you don't need it. A lot of times with the darker amps, I just dial them in differently volume-wise for my mixes, like I said earlier, and I'm okay with it. I mean, I play my Splon Nitro all the time, and it sounds great in a mix, and it's really, really fat and thick, and I love the palm mutes, because the top end on amps like that are darker, the benefit is the top end is thicker. It's not as sharp. You got this broad top end, so when the pick is slicing through the strings, you get this real thick, heavy attack on the strings, and it chugs like crazy, and it still has a great amount of attack in there and a lot of articulation. It's just a thicker articulation. It's more of a punch to the gut as opposed to a stab in your heart, you know. So there's the difference. Punch to the gut on the Kraken and a stab right into your heart with the EVH Stealth. So it really depends on what you prefer. So I'm going to play the red channel on the Stealth and channel 2 on the Kraken in a mix for you so that you can hear how they compare. On the Kraken, for the lead channels, I noticed that the notes are a little thicker and smoother than the EVH. The EVH definitely has a little more of a bite to it, and because it's 50 watts, it's not going to be as thick and as full as a 100-watt amp, but I mean, that's to be expected. I still think the EVH sounds great and had a good standing in this shootout, so it really comes down to what you prefer. If you want thickness and a little more smoothness to the top end, you'd want to go with the Kraken. If you want a little more bite and you don't really necessarily need that thickness on your solos, then EVH is definitely the one for you. So let's quickly compare the clean channels, and then I'll give you my final thoughts regarding features and price. Well, depending on your taste, either one of those channels could work for you. Oddly enough, I think I preferred the clean channel on the EVH a little more. It was a little fuller, rounder, and warmer. So depending on what you like, you'll go for either one. So one more feature I want to show you on the Kraken is it has a built-in boost. It's called preamp focus. And it acts as a boost, and it actually does a really good job tightening up the low end and giving you a little more aggression in the high gain channels. Let me demonstrate that for you now in channel 1 in the high gain mode. I'll start with it off and then I'll click it on while I'm playing, and you can hear the difference. And I'll also tell you what I'm experiencing regarding how the amp feels when I engage the preamp focus. That was channel 1. Now let's go to channel 2, which has a lot more gain, and show you the difference that it makes on that channel. And I'm going to start with it off. It does make quite a difference, so depending on your needs and how much boost you like, the boost that comes in the amp could work perfectly for you. I personally prefer the precision drive over it, but I could see how a lot of people would really like the boost that comes in the amplifier. It really does tighten it up and add a little more aggression to it. Okay, so regarding features, they both have MIDI, which I really like. They both have depth control. With the EVH Super Kraken, the depth control is pretty much a button. You turn it on or turn it off, and the amount of depth is kind of decided for you. And with the EVH, you actually have a depth knob. You can adjust it to your taste. One thing I will tell you about the MIDI feature on the Kraken is all the features that are on it, that anything that's associated with one of the toggle switches, you can turn on and off via MIDI on that amplifier. And that gives you more flexibility regarding how you program the amplifier, either on itself or with MIDI. You can turn the boost on and off with MIDI. You can also select clean or crunch on channel 1. And you can also select which master volume you would like to use via MIDI as well. So on the Kraken, you have 2 master volumes. On the Stealth, basically each channel has its own volume. And the Kraken is a 100-watt amplifier, and the Stealth is 50 watts. With the Kraken, you do have a couple of selections regarding how many watts you want to use. You can go 100 or 30 watts with it. And with the Stealth, it's pretty much 50 watts. They don't have a lower watt setting on that amplifier. Now, as far as build quality goes, you might want to do your research on that, but as far as I know, the Stealth is definitely a production model, and the Kraken is a boutique amplifier, so it's not production, and there's definitely a higher level of build quality and components in boutique amplifiers. Now, the pricing difference between these amplifiers is as follows. The EVH Stealth lists for $14.99 and the Victory Kraken lists for $21.99. That's a $700 difference. So before you make your purchase, just weigh everything out and make sure that if you're willing to spend the extra $700 for the Kraken, that you're getting your money's worth for what it is that you're looking for and what's important to you. And on the other hand, if you're looking to save $700 by getting the EVH Stealth, make sure that you're not sacrificing anything that the Kraken has to offer, where you'll be kind of bummed out about, well, I saved $700, but man, I really miss features X, Y, and Z, or whatever that we talked about in this video. So make the best choice that works best for you. I like both of these amps a lot, and as you can see, I have them on the channel all the time, and I enjoy playing through both of them equally. It just depends on what I'm looking for that day, but I understand if you have to choose one. Hopefully this video helped you make that choice. Well, thanks for watching. I appreciate it very much. And to all my subscribers, thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, and click the bell so that you can be notified every time I come out with a new episode or go live. Well, I got a lot of great stuff coming up, and I'll see you on the next one.